I would now like to introduce our final student commencement speaker, Chad Adams. Chad traveled from Alaska to Amherst to be here with us today. And do you mind if I tell the story? Last night, he tried to get to the graduation ceremony with his family and ended up on one of our many beautiful bike paths. In Alaska, I guess a bike path is a road. But it was Google Maps that did it, I think. Yeah, okay, it's all Google Maps. So this is his moment today. He didn't make it last night, but that's why we have today for you, Chad. Chad is an accounts vice president and portfolio manager for Keystone Wealth Management at UBS. 27 years old. He spends his days creating innovative strategies that helps families and organizations meet their financial goals. Today, Chad earns his bachelor's degree from UMass Amherst, University Without Walls, with a concentration in finance and investments. Chad, I want you to know that I finished reading your portfolio last week, and I was struck by its complexity, depth, and vision. And if you don't mind, I'd like to share one small excerpt from it. Chad writes, I hope that this process was at least a fraction as educational for you as it was for me. In my life, there has only been a handful of moments, most of which were explored within this portfolio, which I can say truly shifted my way of thinking. The UWW experience was one of those moments. It's my sincerest hope that this style of education becomes more prevalent and available within our educational systems. I would like to present Chad Adams.
You can keep that going, it's okay. Yeah. Good morning, my fellow UWW Minutemen and women. Feels darn good to get that bachelor's degree-sized monkey off your back, doesn't it? Yeah. I'll admit it, when I first came back to the world of higher education, it was so that I could finally check that degree box on applications, as opposed to that menacing, some college? That's really nice you gave it a try, but there's no way you're getting this job box. Or, like Mike, when someone asked me that dreaded question, so where'd you go to college, I could have a real answer, as opposed to, I could really go for some cake right now, how about you? Or spend the next 5 minutes fumbling around it. I hated that. And the only person that I had to blame for putting myself in that predicament, you're looking at him. I arrived in that spot very much the same way I'm sure many of you did. You see, school and I, we really weren't on the best of terms, and we could have what you call a tenuous relationship. Even with that, I still managed to get a scholarship to go play football for United States Air Force Academy, and I didn't even know that textbooks could open. Obviously laying the groundwork for a lifetime of solid studying habits. After I left the academy, I bounced around between my local state school and even a couple of just bad online programs because I knew in order to get a halfway decent job, I needed that piece of paper. Well, probably the worst thing that could have happened for my educational aspirations, or lack thereof, happened. I didn't get a good job. Instead, through the hallowed business traditions of nepotism and birthright, I got a great job. So I dropped out of college. After all, I didn't need that piece of paper anymore, right? The way I saw it, everything that I needed to know, I was either learning on the job or was spawning from my natural acumen. Yeah. When I finally decided to come back to school, I knew that wherever I ended up would have to have two things, an online program and a top reputation. In my scouring of the annals of the interwebs, I came across UMass Amherst. And I remember thinking to myself, man, if I could just get a degree from a school like that. And then I saw this little box that said, University Without Walls, it's your turn. You know what, little box? You've got a point. Click. I learned that the UWW program offered actual college credit for real professional experience. I thought I had this thing in the bag. I already had a couple of years of school out of the way, and I could just Beowulf my way through the experiential stuff with some inspired retellings of my professional escapades. They should really just give me the degree now and save us all a bunch of time. Little did I know, little did any of us know, how unique and powerful of an educational odyssey we were embarking upon together. For all of you out there that didn't go through the UWW program, on top of the traditional top-ranked college courses that are required to round out someone's degree, the UWW process focuses on helping students explore and demonstrate what they've learned from influential experiences in their lives. But it goes much further than just writing them down. It provides you with a template to reflect on these experiences from a perspective outside of yourself, thus gaining a far more rich and complete understanding of not just those moments in time, but yourself as a whole. Like many of you, I started out analyzing what I thought were completely independent but impactful snapshots in my life. Kind of like dropping pebbles into a pond. The ripples of effect are far-reaching, but not necessarily monumental. Well, by the time I was done, what I had realized what I was throwing in that pond were not pebbles, but boulders. And instead of just these little tiny ripples, those little ripples compounded into a tidal wave of influence that affects me every single day in the decisions I make. So, sort of like that classic chaos theory example where a butterfly flaps its wings in Malaysia and the Kardashians end up with a hit TV show. Yeah. This has not only been the most powerful and unique educational experience of my life, this program guided me on a path of self-discovery that I didn't know I signed up for and will influence me for the rest of my life. Of course, like you, I couldn't have gotten here by myself. It took the support of my family, all of you as my peers, and my advisor, Dr. Mitch Boucher. Mitch, you the man. This man went above and beyond the call of duty for me more times than I care to count. And I not only feel lucky to have had him as a professor, but honored to have had him as part of my life. I'm going to share a brief story with you about Mitch. A few weeks back, he sent me an email, 828 words. You count these kind of things when you're in the UWW program. It was really encouraging, so I forwarded it to my mom and dad. Well, my mom took that email and read it to my grandfather, who wasn't doing so well in the hospital. He called me afterwards and told me how proud he was of me and that he knew I was going to be okay. And you have to understand how important that was, because just a couple weeks later, he died. But he passed on knowing that his little booger was going to be okay. And Mitch, it was your words that helped make that possible. How many professors out there would take the time to write 828 words that would carry that kind of impact on your life? How many other programs out there wouldn't just have Mitch, not just any, but all of our amazing faculty advisors on staff? I'm drawing a blank. UWW has changed our lives. As we move on from here today, remember UWW. Remember this amazing faculty. Stay involved and pay it forward so that people like you and me can continue to come through this process and go back out into the world more prepared than when we came in. So here we are. Unlike most commencement speeches where you go off into the world of fluffy clouds that are built on hopes and dreams, we've already been out there, buddy. I don't need to tell you what's waiting for you beyond those doors, but I'm going to anyways because it wraps up my speech really nicely. Although we may be better prepared for what awaits us, the world hasn't gotten any easier since it was before we came here today. We're all gonna get knocked down. The world's got a funny way of doing that the second you think you got it all figured out. Whether it's your family, your job, or your car that decides to break down the day after the warranty expires. Man. Because we've all been around the block a time or two, we know that a most unwelcome dose of reality is waiting just around the corner. But what I learned through exploring my experiences, and many of yours as well, is that our worlds are filled with inspiration and people who love and support us, many of whom who are here today. These are the people that cheered us on when it was warranted and kicked us in the rear when it was needed, and will continue to do so as we move forward with our lives. Because it is through that communal determination, perseverance, and downright stubbornness that brought us here today, celebrating earning our bachelor's degrees from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Now, no one asked me to do this, but I'm going to anyways because it pretty much guarantees me a standing ovation. Please rise. You gotta plan these things out. It is my honor to congratulate the UMass Amherst University Without Walls class of 2013. Go Minutemen! Yeah.